again, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Frederica Whitfield. Just 1 week until one of the most influential and contentious Republican presidential primaries in South Carolina. And today is a critical day for the 6 remaining candidates who will face off tonight at a debate in Greenville. And as we saw in New Hampshire and Iowa, a debate can be a major game changer. Republican presidential hopefuls are fired up, and we're expecting to hear a lot about 3 major topics: the split views on immigration, winning the evangelical vote, and in a state saturated with military men and women, they will be sparring for their vote, with military spending and Veterans Affairs likely at the front and center of tonight's debate. So let's talk more about what we can expect from tonight's Republican debate in South Carolina with CNN political commentator and Washington correspondent for The New Yorker, Ryan Lizza, CNN politics reporter MJ Lee, the director at the Center for Politics at the University of Virginia, Larry Sabato, and politics editor at TheRoot.com and professor of political science at Hiram College, Jason Johnson. All right, good to see all of you.
Good to be
see
here.
if I can do good traffic copping here. All right, so MJ, you first. Ted Cruz releasing an ad attacking Trump using the word sleaze. Listen.
Trump bankrolled politicians to steamroll the little guy, a pattern of sleaze stretching back decades.
Okay, so much for being more positive, MJ?
Yeah, not seeing a lot of that around here, just a week away from the South Carolina primary. And this is because Donald Trump and Ted Cruz both badly want to win this state, the first Southern primary of the 2016 race. And look, they have had some tensions brewing for a while, and this is really crunch time. They each have one victory under their belts heading into South Carolina. And now they want to show that they really are the anti-establishment candidate. And so there's a lot at stake for the two of them. And Donald Trump, of course, who doesn't like to be criticized, showing some frustration, tweeting yesterday that if Cruz keep this up, maybe he'll just launch a lawsuit because Cruz is not a natural-born citizen.
All right, and meantime, Trump then pulled an ad attacking Cruz and replaced it with a more positive message. Let's look at that one.
We have a country that we're proud of and that we love and that we're not going to lose. There is an assault on everything that we stand for, and we're going to stop the assault. We will make America great again.
Ryan, how influential are these ads really? I mean, do voters feel like they already know these candidates, or are these ads designed to supplement that imagery or give a new image of who they might be?
Well, you know, so far this race, spending money on ads has been a little bit of a mixed record. Look, Donald Trump shot to the head of the polls without running much advertising at all. He's changed that strategy a little bit. He put some money into Iowa, a little bit of money into New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, the guy that was the victim of the most negative ads was probably Marco Rubio, and they certainly had some impact. But as you pointed out in the setup, Rubio's problem may have been that last debate right before the voting in New Hampshire. Jeb Bush has spent millions of dollars on positive ads to boost his name, to boost his poll numbers, and they didn't do much at all. So I think overall in this campaign, we have seen a bit of a decline in the impact of TV advertising. And you have one candidate, Donald Trump, who absolutely dominated the campaign so far, almost only through the use of so-called earned media, just getting on CNN and Fox and MSNBC all the time.
And looking at the polling, you know, Trump dominating, particularly over Cruz in South Carolina. And so I wonder, Jason, this evangelical vote, quite influential, very important for that state and other places. Ted Cruz has been kind of going into this thinking, you know, that represents a good bit of his backing. But then there's Trump.
Look, Trump is going to do well with people who are conservative. He's going to do well with people who are angry at the government. He's going to do well with people who want outsiders. The evangelical vote, you know, they were supposed to be split with Huckabee and Santorum and Cruz, and that didn't happen. Trump does well with the evangelical vote as well. So what Cruz is really looking to do in South Carolina is keep himself from being blown out of the water. And for all of those Republicans who are like, I will never vote for Donald Trump, I think he's an actual embarrassment to the party, he's hoping he can get them and evangelicals to make it a Trump-Cruz race for the next couple of months.
And then, Larry, let's talk about spontaneity. And when any of these candidates are on stage at a debate, it really is a test of, just how quick of a thinker they can be. And we saw, it was the demise of Rubio in New Hampshire. He didn't do so great. So how much pressure is on all of those candidates tonight to look unscripted?
Well, I think there's considerable pressure, particularly on the ones who need to win South Carolina or who are supposed to win South Carolina. Maybe a little less pressure on John Kasich. This isn't his state. It isn't his territory. But look, I celebrate the fact that real events, even if they're staged like debates, and news coverage are having more impact on the results of the campaign than television advertising. That is always very scripted, and it's manipulative. Now, some of the things that are said in debates are manipulative too, but as we've learned, unless you don't go to the debate, either because you haven't qualified or like Donald Trump did once, you decide that you don't need to, unless you don't show up, then you have that opportunity to either make a terrific positive impression or to hurt your candidacy by doing poorly.
And Ryan, during that debate in New Hampshire, it was Chris Christie who really kind of redirected everything and everyone. He will be absent. He's not there. He suspended, his participation here in the race for the White House. How do you see this impacting the dynamics here tonight?
Well, I think the biggest thing to come out of New Hampshire is that New Hampshire did not quite do its traditional role in winnowing the field closer to a 2 or 3 person race. And this is benefiting Donald Trump because Trump has a 25 to 35% support in most states and nationally. And the alternatives to him, who are drawing from the same pool of voters, are divided. And so, we only got Chris Christie's the only major candidate that dropped out after New Hampshire. Carly Fiorina did also, but she wasn't really a player anymore. And so Trump is in the catbird seat right now, a close second place in Iowa, a smashing victory in New Hampshire, and a divided opposition. And I don't see any reason to think that South Carolina is going to be a whole lot different than what happened in New Hampshire. So he's in very good shape right now.
Right.
And MJ, what about Ben Carson?
Yeah, the one candidate that we haven't been talking about a lot. Look, this is a candidate who briefly had a moment at the top of the polls. He was doing very well in Iowa because of the constituency that makes up the voters in that state. He was appealing to evangelicals. He was appealing to conservatives. And then his moment just sort of passed. And look, if he were doing as well as he was in Iowa at one point, South Carolina is a state that, he could theoretically be doing very well. But I think the question for him going forward is there a path for him when, this is a race now really dominated by Donald Trump and Ted Cruz and, 3 or 4 other candidates that are really vying to be the establishment candidate? What is really the path forward for Ben Carson when he doesn't seem to have the momentum?
And then a distinguishing, part of the criteria could be on immigration, Jason, how any of these candidates kind of distinguish themselves as having a plan that is palpable, particularly for South Carolinians.
Well, it's really hard because Trump moved the immigration conversation so far to the right. And so now you had Cruz trying to follow him. You have different people talking about how you're going to build a wall. And what this really kind of boils down to is this, and this is something that Larry sort of mentioned. There was this belief that after New Hampshire, that eventually all of the establishment candidates, the Chris Christies and the Jeb Bushes, they would drop out and they'd get around Rubio like the Power Rangers or something. He'd be this big Republican who could finally take out Donald Trump, and it didn't work that way. What we see is people like Chris Christie and Ben Carson, they're now supporting Trump. And when Carson drums out, he'll probably support Trump. So I think Trump is going to be more powerful, and his immigration plan will be the default for Republicans going forward.
Wow. All right, Jason Johnson, Larry Sabato, MJ Lee, Ryan Lizza, thanks to all of you. Good to see you. Thanks so much.